I let her talk me into it. I wore my hair out again this week. I got punked again. Yep, I fell for it again, you guys. You know, she told me that she would behave. I literally was like, okay, I'm gonna take you out. We only have, Friday and Saturday to go. We're gonna do your hair on Sunday. And so she looked cute. That first day, she looked so cute. And then the rest of it happened. Oh, and I just snagged my hair. Ladies, always remove your rings. Ladies, bros, remove your rings. All that hard work we do on our hair that we don't want to do, we certainly don't want to snag it and make it worse, do we? I like her out. She likes to be out, but sometimes she just needs to be under control. And like I've said before, it's like both me and my hair were raised unsupervised, and we don't know how to act when we're out in public. Well, that was an impromptu break. Had to empty my phone out again, it was full. So anyway, back to what I was saying. It's like we're both unsupervised, just trying to hang out in public, and doesn't always work, but I keep listening to her. And so this is the funny thing. I keep telling myself, oh, don't wear your hair out. We're trying to grow it, blah, blah, blah. And I tell myself, stop listening to her. She's playing you like a banjo. She's cute when I wear her out, though, so, we have to deal with that. So anyway, I'm expecting, a lot of tangles today. Welcome to body doubling for my ADHD and my autistic curlies out there. It's Detangle and Talk Sunday. And today, I don't know, I was thinking about talking about, friendships and stuff like that, because it's really hard for me to make friends. I've always said that I prefer to collect. I like collecting personalities. And I never realized how interesting that theory is about collecting personalities. Years and years ago, 2 decades ago actually, when I moved from Lincoln and moved to Indiana, my friends gave me a going away party, and we all went out for dinner and everything like that. It was so much fun. But you guys, all of my different level of friends were there. My work friends were there, and work friends are really like, acquaintances, right? They're not real friends. But anyway, maybe some are. I had my work friends there. I had my school friends there that I had been friends with since 3rd grade. And then my other set of friends were friends that I made, in my adult years at that time, in my 20s and 30s. Wow, you guys. So the whole time at my little going away dinner, I was barely saying a word, and everybody's like, oh, you're not talking very much, and, are you sad, and, that you're leaving us, and, and you don't have a whole lot to say, because I always have something to say. I know that's hard to believe, but I always have something to say. And, and they were like, oh, this is so sweet, she's overcome with, she's leaving her friends and blah, blah. No, I was like, this is so fucking cool. I was just listening to all of their interactions with each other back and forth, and their interactions with me, and how if somebody would say something, one of the other sets of friends would be like, oh, I didn't know that. Or my work friends would say something, and my school friends would be like, oh, what? Really? And so it was just so interesting. And so I say that for a couple of different reasons, because for me, making friends, I don't know if it's the same for me as it is for other people. For me, friends is kind of like, I don't know, what's the definition of a friend? Maybe I should have looked that up. I really don't understand the concept of like friends or friendships. I mean, it's somebody that you hang out with, and stuff like that, and do things with. So like when you're younger, you play together and you go over to the house, and you spend the night, and you have all these little activities that you don't like to do alone. You want to do those with somebody else. And so that makes sense. I used to have some sleepovers and stuff like that when it would work out, with my mom's schedule. I would have sleepovers, and you do things like that together. You go riding bikes, and terrorizing the neighborhood, just being out and about and playing, kind of like what kids don't do a whole lot of these days. I don't see a lot of kids out playing anymore. You younger ones out there that still have young kids, do your kids play outside, or is it just too dangerous now? I don't know. I want to know because I'm nosy. But anyway, I understand friendships, like when you're kids and stuff like that, and you make friends on, your activities, or, like your football, or, your volleyball, whatever school activities you're doing, you've got those friends, right? And am I even ready for detangling today? I don't even know. So I have this. Everything to do with detangling sits in this bag. That way when I detangle, I pick up this bag and go. My other one back there, straight styling products. There's a little tip for you. But anyway, we're back with the oil again, because why? It works so well, we've decided. But let's see, what was I saying? Oh, and so anyway, when you're younger and stuff like that, especially hanging out in activities, it makes sense that you have, those people that you hang around with, but are they really friends? I don't know. What's a friend? And so you have those, and then you have your, like your high school friends. It's a whole different level. And more times than not, you take your, your grade school friends with you to high school. I mean, they're still there too, right? But you make a different set of friends in high school. I mean, are you hanging out with the gearheads, or the druggies, or, the cheerleaders and the jocks? Well, me, I didn't necessarily hang out with any of those kinds. I mostly hung out with. So apparently it's going to be one of those days, because I had to stop again. Then I forgot to push play. So this part is almost detangled. And so you guys remember, after I use my oil, which is working out really, really well, then I go in with my standard pre-poo. And then once I brush that through, then I twist it up and get it out of the way. And, she's actually behaving. I don't have as many tangles as I thought there was going to be. And so she's doing all right. But anyway, let me get back to talking about friends. And so in high school, and then I'm going to go back to the beginning. But in high school, it was so weird, because I typically ended up just keeping my friends from, like, grade school that I met, because it was so hard for me to make friends, especially being black in the 60s in Nebraska, Lincoln. That was a difficult story. I'll have to share that someday. But I pretty much stayed friends with them. And so we were kind of like not the weird kids, but, we were kind of the weirdos. And so I hung out with the weirdos. And I was good with that, Hanging out with the weirdos has its place. It was kind of like us weirdos, and, us nerdy kids, and, all of us kids that didn't quite, fit in with the jocks and the beautiful people. Whoa, all of them. And, we certainly didn't, fit in with the gearheads, and, vroom, vroom, and all that shit, and racing cars up and down the street, and we didn't hang out with the motorcycle kids. I mean, so who else are we going to hang out with, right? What are those kids called? Is there a name for that? You young kids out there, is there a name for that now? Or, you hang out with what do you call that? Hanging out with the eccentric kids and stuff like that? So anyway, it's always been hard for me to make friends. And as I got to be an adult, it just got harder and harder and harder. And I mean, even moving here, well, you know what? Let me go back, because let me go back. So for me, making friends was really difficult, because I was a military brat. Well, until I was, I think, like 3, we lived in like just a regular house. And then there were these other black kids across the street, and I would go over there and play with them. But man, they were just so scary, and they had these things sitting around their house everywhere and in their bedrooms and everything like that. And after a while, I found out that they were called troll dolls. Oh, they still creep me out to this day. But anyway, I didn't want to go over there very often because I'm like, why do you have these troll dolls everywhere? And their hair's sticking up and their faces look all crazy and they're fat, chunky, and naked. I just thought it was so weird. And so I didn't go over there very often. They're really nice people though. And you know, I enjoyed playing with the kids, but it was just weird. And those were the only kids really in the neighborhood that I played with. There were a couple of, you know, like white kids that were down the street and everything like that, but they mostly just threw rocks at me and like chased me away and stuff like that. So, you know, at first I thought it was kind of funny. I'd be like, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. Ooh, come get me. I didn't know. I didn't know they were chasing me because I was black. I had no idea. I was a freaking kid. I just wanted to play. And so, you know, they didn't play so much with me, so, you know, whatever. And so then a little bit later on, I think like when I was 4, almost 5, my dad at the time finally got his base housing. And so we moved out to, you know, out to base housing. And boy, that was really interesting. There was all kinds of kids out there. The first house we lived in out there, I remember the kids next door, they didn't speak English. I mean, the kids, they weren't in school yet, and so they were French, and they lived next door, and I would play with them and everything like that, and it was so weird, you know. Even back then, I was bossy. Imagine that. But you know, I always wanted to play doctor. I was the doctor. 1964, 1965. I'm the doctor, and they were my nurses or assistants, or they were the patients, or I was, you know, like a lawyer. You know, I was like Perry Mason. You know, I wanted to be Perry Mason when I grew up. You know, and so I would be the attorney, and you know, and they would be like the criminal, or you know, like the, you know, the person that had gotten robbed, you know, or whatever, some funny ass shit. But and so I made friends with them, you know, because we were just, you know, just kids playing and everything like that. But when I got to school, when I got to kindergarten and everything like that, that's when I started really seeing that, man, these kids don't want to have anything to do with me. They just, man, it was, I just remember, I don't know if I felt sad. I don't know if I knew how to feel back then, but they just weren't interested in me, you know, at all. And, you know, it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because I'm like, you know, everybody's over there playing, and, you know, I would go over and I would want to play, and then they would like all like get up and walk away. And so I was thinking, I remember this, I know we're talking kindergarten, but it was traumatic. Of course I remember. But they would like get up and walk away, and I'd be like, oh, well, they must just be done, you know, playing this game, you know. And so then I would follow them, you know, to the next place, and, you know, they would look at me and, you know, make fun of me, and I was like, yeah, I'm so funny, I'm just following you guys. And then they would get up and they would move again. And I was like, are they just not want to play with me, or am I missing something? Is there like some kind of unspoken like thing, you know, we're all gonna play here for like 5 minutes, and then we're gonna move over there, and after we're done playing over there, then we're gonna move back there, and then we're gonna go out, you know, then it'll be time for recess. I don't know, I kept thinking I must be missing something, because why do I keep getting there I thought I was getting there too late, you know, and everything like that. But no, they didn't want to play with the black kid. And the day I realized it in kindergarten was a winter day. My dad had bought me a new winter coat. It was beautiful. I still remember what it looks like. It was like a dark, beautiful blue, and it had a black collar and, you know, black around the sleeves. It was just beautiful. I mean, I just was the shit, right? So I was so excited to wear my new coat to school that day, because I'm like, oh, you know, maybe if I show them girls, you know, this new coat, maybe they'll like me, because they had really, cool things and, stuff like what I wanted, but I just never, I never got, like, they had like their coats with their matching hats, and, they had their little gloves. They're going to kindergarten like this, people. Yeah, I'm saying it. And they would dress the same, like, going to church. There was a church out on the military base. And so I was so excited to wear that coat that day. And they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Well, look at your coat, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, they're paying attention to me. And we were getting ready to go out for recess later on that morning. And I felt something down my back. And I remember going like this, because I can't have things touching my back. I have a sensitivity issue back there. I literally come out of my skin. Oh, just thinking about it. Oh. And so I felt this thing on my back, and I'm like, what are they doing? And then they were laughing and laughing and laughing, right? They had taken a black magic marker and it scribbled down the back of my coat. You guys, I was so upset, and I was crying, and and the teacher got upset with me, and because I was making a scene, she said, and I was trying to tell her that they had, marked up my coat. And she said that it was still, just inappropriate behavior, and why was I blowing things out of proportion? And why do I remember that? Because she actually called my dad, and my dad had to come down to the school and come get me, because they told my dad that he needed to come get me. So my dad wasn't a very nice person at all. And he did come and got me and took me home, and I got a whooping that day. I got a whooping for a couple of different reasons. I got a whooping because he was told I was being difficult. He was told I was being loud and animated. And he was also mad because I had embarrassed him, because they had to call him from his job to come get me. So those are my first experiences with friends. And so you can kind of understand why I wasn't too excited to have to do that again. I was like, what the hell? I don't even know what's happening here. But after that, not understanding the 60s and being black back then, I went to like 3 other grade schools, and I didn't do well in any of the grade schools. I remember that. And then when my dad, finally left the base and bought a house in, like, I want to say 1968, 69, somewhere in there. And he moved to a suburb. Yay, because we love suburbs, don't we? If you grew up in a suburb. If you're black and you grew up in a suburb, you already know, right? So we're living in this suburb. We're the first black family in that suburb. And when I tell you the racism, that was enough to make me not even consider making friends, because I mean, everybody out there was so just, it was awful. It was just awful. And when I went to my new grade school, I'll never forget it. I was sitting there in, I don't remember what class it was, it doesn't matter. But there was a girl in there. She was blonde, she had blue eyes. She was sitting at her desk, and she had her hair, just all in her face, and she wasn't paying attention to the teacher, and I thought she was all badass. But the cool thing, she had on the same pair of shorts I had on. Butterfly shorts, white butterfly shorts with pastel pink, yellow, green, and blue butterflies on them. Except she had on a pink shirt, I think, and I had on a blue shirt with mine. Well, I saw her wearing the same shorts I was wearing, and she was sitting there being all renegade like that and everything. And then I found out what her name was, and my friend Mary, and we've literally been friends since man, fourth grade, third grade. I don't remember if it was third or fourth grade, but we're still friends to this day, and I just love her so much. And you know, I made friends with her, and then the next year in fourth grade, I made friends with Vicky, and she was my other white friend, my two white girlfriends, and you know, even back then, I was like, man, these girls are so cool because they're so brave. I thought they were brave because they were brave enough to be my friend and they didn't care what anybody thought. And I thought that was just really super cool. And so, you know, we just started hanging out every day. And, you know, once they made friends with me, then other people, you know, started wanting to make friends with me. But, you know, I wasn't that interested because it didn't take me long to find out that most people had, you know, some sort of, I don't know, ulterior motive. Is that the word I'm looking for? You know, they didn't want to be my friend. They wanted to, you know, like, I was like the butt of a lot of people's jokes. Oh, go up and talk to that black girl and say this, and this, or go over there and tell her that you like her, you know, and stuff like that, and you know, and then they would do that, and then they would like giggle and run off and stuff like that. So you know, I was always just the butt of people's jokes, and you know, makes you not really want to make a whole lot of friends, does it? But you know, they were brave enough to be my friends, and I really appreciated that. And you know, and that was in grade school, and you know, and that was during a time when, you know, the racism and being black in an all-white neighborhood was just so scary. You know, I didn't want to make friends because I mean, adults were chasing me down the street and you know, trying to run me over with their cars on the sidewalk, and you know, hollering out, you know, the N word, and you know, throwing rocks at me and chasing me, and so at one point, I actually started taking a different route home, you know, thinking that maybe I could, you know, alleviate some of that. Well, that didn't work. Actually, what happened was I'd be walking down a street and I'd see, you know, kids out in the yard, and I'd be like, uh-oh, you know, there might be problems. And they literally would go in the house. Mom, Dad, there's an N-word on the sidewalk. There's an N-word sitting here, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, the parents would come out and, you know, what are you doing over here? And where do you live? And, you know, where are your parents at? And, you know, just started questioning me. And it was so scary because these adults were coming out of their houses and they were looking at me like, I don't even have an explanation for it back then. I was so little. I just knew that it was so scary. And I'm like, you know, these are adults and they're scaring me. And that was so confusing, you know, that was so confusing to me. And so, you know, any kids that I saw, I didn't want to make friends with them because I had no idea what their ulterior motive was. You know, are you trying to make fun of me? Are you trying to set me up? Are you trying to get me in trouble? You know, are you going to tell on me, you know, to your parents? You know, what's going on with that? And you know, I even remember this one story when I was living out on the air base, you know, back before, you know, we moved. And I went over to this one girl's house, and I have enormous feet. I've got big feet, big body, big everything, you know. I don't know what happened. I've got a lot of everything going on. But anyway, I'll never forget it because her mom comes home, and she's like, who has boys in the house and blah, blah, blah. Because, I mean, my feet were so big even back then. I mean, I wore boys' shoes back then because, you know, they didn't make cute girl shoes in my size back then, you know, and stuff like that. And so, you know, my dad got my shoes at, like, Buster Brown's. Does anybody remember Buster Brown? Well, that's where I got my shoes. But anyway, I was over at her house, and we all had to take our shoes off at the door, you know, and everything like that. You couldn't track dirt in. And her mom came home and saw those big-ass shoes, and I came around the corner, and she was like, oh. She goes, well, look at you. Aren't you just a cute little darky? And I was like, yes. Because I didn't know any better. And I'm like, those are my shoes. And she's like, ooh, Lord. She goes, you got that pretty dark skin and you got some big old feet too? And I was like, yes. But anyway, so that was kind of funny. But anyway, they ended up being really nice, and those friends actually, I stayed with them. I found them back again, and once we got to high school and everything like that, and even after high school. And so they ended up being really super cool and everything like that. But for the most part, it's just always been really hard for me to make friends, and just being nervous about the process, and you know just not knowing how to behave or how to respond, and that hasn't left me at all. And my whole big thing about making friends for me was I didn't have an ability to like read. I can read a room. And I can read what's going on in there. How do I need to act? How do I need to respond? What person is safe, what one isn't, who can I talk to, who can I not, that sort of thing. I can do that. But what I can't do is like, I don't know, like read. I'm really horrible at social cues. And I thought I was good at it, but I'm not. I'm not good at it at all. And so I would get confused. I'm like, does this person like me? Do they not like me? Oh, flirting. You guys, let me tell you about that. 10 times out of 10, if you're a dude or a woman and you're flirting with me, I have no idea. I have no idea. Literally, I have no idea. I have been called, oh, you prude, blah, 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 and you're being rude. And I'm like, rude how? How am I being rude? Oh, blah, 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 and I did this, and this. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see that. You were flirting with me? Dang. And so I've never been really good at reading social cues. And because of that, I'm not really good at picking out friends, even as an adult. And as an adult, when me and my husband moved here to Tennessee, I tried a few times to make friends, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. And mostly it's because of me, because I'm very opinionated and very judgmental. And I have this other small part of me that is, I want what I want when I want it. I want good friends, good quality friends. And so I tried a handful of times to make friends here as an adult, and I failed miserably. And to my defense though, the reason I failed is because I didn't read their social cues. They were just horrible people. I mean, this one lady, we went out and we had coffee and everything like that, and I ordered like just a little side salad, and I can't remember what she ordered, a sandwich or something. She was so rude. She was like, this ain't what I ordered, and this ain't right, and blah, 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 and didn't I tell you this, and this? And I was like, oh my God. I was so embarrassed, you guys. I was so embarrassed. I'm like, it's not me. I don't know who this woman is, but it's not me. And it was just so uncomfortable. And we just made it like super, super quick. I made it super, super quick, and I was like, I slipped that coffee down so damn quick, I freaking burnt my tongue, and I took my salad home. I was like, oh, blah, 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 and I got to get somewhere, and la, 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 la. And then I left, and then I blocked her on my phone. It was just awful. And I thought she was so nice, and, I thought we had things in common. She worked at a department store, and I would go in there because I was an impulse shopper. And, we would talk often and stuff like that. And so I got to a point where, I liked the things that she had to say. She liked some things that I had to say. And so I'm like, oh, and she was from Chicago, which was really cool. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try this. No. I literally could not believe how she was behaving. I wasn't raised like that. I wasn't raised to be rude like that. And I don't understand people that are rude like that. I don't understand it. And so I always had a hard time, had. I'm still having a hard time making friends because I'm very particular, and I'm different. I'm just different, and I know I'm different, and I'm okay with that. And I need to be friends with people that are okay with me being different. But for the most part, most people that I tried to make friends with, and it's my fault too, because why am I just trying to make friends with black women? Because I'm black. I want friends like me, but it never works out for me. I don't understand it. They make fun of me, and even my black friends, the few that I had, they would make fun of me. Oh, you sound like a white woman, and oh, blah blah blah, and you dress weird, and why do you talk like that, and why do you act like that? Why do you behave like that? Why do you ask so many questions? And I was like, I don't know. It's having friends for me is just, it's exhausting. It's exhausting, and I hate to say it that at my age now, I no longer have any interest for friends, and so enter social media, and I'm like, well, I can make some social media friends and stuff like that, and so I got back on Facebook here, not too long ago, and that's not going too well because everybody on there is toxic, and I'm being stalked by men that think that I want to date them, or they want to send me money, or so, I don't know what, I don't understand it. It's just the weirdest thing. Oh, you're so beautiful, and except I can't follow you unless you follow me, but all that kind of bullshit. So there's that, and I didn't want to deal with that. And then the other part of it is like, I will join some ADHD support groups. Me and my therapist have talked about that, and I don't want to like go to, you know, excuse me, a regular type support group, but I'm like, maybe I'll find a support group on, on Facebook. And so a friend of mine told me about a support group on there, so I joined it. You guys, if you belong to that Facebook ADHD group, I mean no disrespect. That group is so toxic, and they're judgy and everything like that. They're so judgy that when you want to really talk about something personal, or you really need to gain some insight on something, people would post as, what's that word, anonymous, because they didn't want backlash, because there was going to be backlash. And one time somebody had posted something about, it's really hard for me to get in the shower and blah, 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 blah. And all these trolls popped up on there. You're disgusting. Don't you know all that bacteria you're harboring, and you're not showering, and, all of your private parts, and you're a disgusting individual. And I was like, who? That's when I really understood social media. Because I was like, who are these people? These aren't people with ADHD, because we were all just horrified. And some of them were just like striking back, like, you're rude, and get off of here, and who do you think you are, and, blocking them and stuff like that. But then the other aspect of, being on Facebook and trying to find friends was the negativity, and the woe is me-ism, and, I have ADHD and poor me, and I've been treated badly my whole life. And I'm like, so have I. I was raised in an abusive household. Me too. I have ADHD, plus I have a whole host of other things, a whole list of things. And I'm thinking to myself, don't you guys have anything positive to say? Don't you realize how special we are? Don't you realize how unique we are? Don't you realize that people like us are the scientists and the artists and all these other cool people of the world? But anyway, getting back to just, trying to make friends, or, I guess connections, on social media for friends. That didn't work out for me there either, because the whole platform is just toxic. And so I actually ended up moving over to TikTok, just to do, short videos and stuff like that, just to get my feet wet. Actually, it's like a video diary, and I'm just like documenting my thoughts about my ADHD journey. And I've met some really cool people over there, and it hasn't been nearly as toxic as Facebook, which, everybody's like, oh my God, don't go on TikTok, it's terrible. Well, that's not my experience. I've had a very positive experience on TikTok, and I have found some wonderful, wonderful, friends that are following me. I'm following them, and that we write and we talk to each other, often, and stuff like that. And we're there for, for support and everything. And so it's been really positive for me. But, as far as making friends in person and stuff like that, I don't know. I think those days are over for me, and that makes me really sad, but I really don't need anybody but my family and my husband. My husband's my best friend, and he's all I need, honestly. I don't need anybody else. I don't need any female friends. I've got my husband, and he spoils me rotten, and he gets me. You know what I mean? He gets me in all my idiosyncrasies and all of my quirks, and everything like that. And I'm just so lucky, and I'm just so grateful. And, you know, I just really enjoy having him, as my best friend. We still laugh, like gut belly laugh every day. We're both so funny together. And, and he's just always so supportive. Anything I want to do, he's the first one to support me and say, oh, you got this, or you can do this, or, whatever the case may be. But, what about you guys? Do you have trouble making friends and everything like that? Do you have any success with making friends? Do you have any that you've had for a while, and stuff like that? Have you made any new friends? And what's that been like for you? And how do your friends feel about you and your idiosyncrasies and your quirks and stuff like that? Do they have ADHD? Because I have a feeling that people like us hang around a lot of, people like us. We're the band camp kids, and, we're the science nerds, and, we're the artists and stuff like that in school. But how has been making friends for you? Have you been successful at it? That's what I want to know. And what kind of tips do you have to offer and everything like that? Do you have any tips? Do you even care to have friends? Or are you kind of where I'm at? Have you been there, done that, and you're like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to do that anymore. But yeah, because I want to know. And the most success I've had at making friends ever has been at work. And I'll never forget, after I left made my work friends, my first work friends, back in the day, when you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're getting that first job and whatever, and you make those friends. And I thought work friends were friends. Actually, I thought work friends were friends until just recently. As recent as just 10 years ago. And keep in mind, I'm 64 years old, and so, it takes me a while to catch on, right? Yeah. But anyway, I realized that, work friends weren't real friends, but to me, they felt so real. And it felt easier, because we were around each other every day, and, you'd get to see their idiosyncrasies and their little quirks and, their little personality and stuff like that. And so I thought I had made some really good friends there. And this is the thing about making friends at work. Once you're gone, or in my case, fired, because I've been fired from every job I've ever had for performance. Imagine that. But, and then once you leave, everybody just gets busy, with their job and, with their friends at that job, and then their regular friends, and, they're going out together, and they're going out after work, and, or they're hanging out. And, next thing you know, you're not on that list at all anymore. And then, pretty soon, everybody's just gone. And it just caught me off guard. I was like, so these weren't real friends? I mean, how? I still think about that, I'm like, where do you meet friends? Like at the bar? Ugh. At work? I mean, doing like social activities, I guess. I don't know. But I even have a problem with, where do I meet friends now? Because I don't work anymore, and so I'm not out there, hanging out and, being where all the people are, and, I'm not any place on a regular basis where I can even, entertain the thought of being around somebody long enough to make friends. And, at my age, I'm quite okay with that. And I think I've come to a consensus that all I need for me are my husband and my family and our kids our grandkids and our great grandkids. And so, anyway, I'm all done. Once again, it was quick. My phone stayed on this time. I had to restart twice. And anyway, comment down below. I want to know how making friends for you has been, and what suggestions that you might have for somebody old like me that might maybe someday want to, pick up a new friend or two. Anyway, we're all done. So what I'm going to be putting in my hair this week is Nature's Little Secret, the avocado moisture cream. This is becoming one of my favorite moisturizers, and so I love this. And then for my gel, I'm going to be using the Ochre Styling Gel. And yes, as usual, I'm going to be putting her back in twists. And we'll see if she talks me out of it again and wants to go free, and we'll see if I let her, because, I'm a sucker. Anyway, y'all have a great week, and I'll see you next Sunday.